There is a country that sits at the very edge of the world, a chain of islands so far east that for most of human history, it was invisible to the rest of the planet. When Roman emperors ruled Europe, this country had already been here for 10,000 years. When the pyramids rose in Egypt, its people were already making pottery more intricate than anything found on the continent. When the Industrial Revolution transformed the West, this nation was still closed, sealed by choice, a civilization that refused to join the modern world until 1853. And yet today, that same country builds robots that serve tea, bullet trains that float on magnets, cities of 37 million people where the neon never sleeps. Japan. But here's the thing most documentaries miss. Before the temples, before the samurai, before Tokyo, there was something older, something that doesn't fit the story. Long before Japan was Japan, a civilization was already here, and they left behind questions we still cannot answer. 14,000 years ago, while Europe was emerging from the last ice age, and Mesopotamia had not yet planted its first seed, a culture was already thriving on the Japanese archipelago. They are called the Jomon, the cord-marked people, named for the distinctive rope patterns they pressed into wet clay. Their pottery is the oldest in the world. Let that sink in for a moment. The oldest pottery on earth, not from Mesopotamia, not from Egypt, from Japan. These people did not live in empires. They had no kings, no written language, no armies, and yet they lasted for 14,000 years. That is longer than any civilization in human history. Rome lasted 1,000 years. The British Empire, a few centuries. The Jomon, 14 millennia, longer than recorded history itself. And then there are the figurines, the dogu, small clay figures with enormous eyes, bodies exaggerated in ways that seem almost alien. Some archaeologists believe they represent goddesses. Others think they were used in healing rituals, broken intentionally to cure sickness. No one knows for certain. What we do know is that the Jomon were not primitive. They were stable. They chose a way of life that worked, hunting, gathering, fishing, and they perfected it for longer than any empire has ever survived. But around 300 BC, something changed. A new wave of people arrived from the Asian mainland, bringing rice agriculture, metal tools, and an entirely new way of organizing society. The Jomon did not disappear. They merged, and from that fusion, something entirely new was born. The Japanese. Off the coast of Nagasaki, 15 kilometers into the East China Sea, there's an island that looks like a ghost ship frozen in concrete. It's called Gunkanjima, Battleship Island. From a distance, it does resemble a warship, long, narrow, surrounded by a high seawall. But this was not a military fortress. This was a city. In 1887, coal was discovered beneath the seabed. By the early 20th century, the Mitsubishi Corporation had built an entire island community on this tiny rock, just 480 meters long and 160 meters wide. At its peak in 1959, this island, smaller than 2 football fields, held 5,259 people. It was the most densely populated place on Earth. Imagine concrete apartment blocks packed so tightly that sunlight barely reached the streets. A school on the top of the island. A hospital. shops, a cinema, even a pachinko parlor. Generations of families who never set foot on the mainland, born here, married here, buried here. And then, in 1974, the coal ran out. Within 3 months, the island was empty. Everyone left. They took what they could carry. The rest, furniture, photographs, children's toys, was abandoned where it stood. For the next 35 years, Gunkanjima was forbidden. The Japanese government sealed it off entirely. No visitors, no cameras, no record of what was happening inside those crumbling walls. It was only in 2009 that the first outsiders were permitted to land. What they found was an island frozen in 1974, corridors collapsing, apartments exposed to the sea wind, roofs caved in, nature slowly and methodically erasing every trace of human existence. Today, Gunkanjima is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is a mirror. This is what happens when a civilization leaves. What stood for a century crumbles in decades. The sea does not negotiate. In a forest in central Japan, surrounded by ancient cedar trees and a river so pure it reflects the sky like glass, stands the most sacred site in the country. Ise Shingu, the grand shrine of Ise. It looks ancient, weathered cypress wood, thatched roofs, simple lines that seem to belong to another century. And it does. It belongs to many centuries, because this shrine has been standing here, in one form or another, for over 2,000 years. But here is what makes it unlike any other building on Earth. Every 20 years, the shrine is destroyed, not by war, not by natural disaster, by choice. Every 2 decades, since the year 690, the entire shrine complex, every building, every fence, every gate, is taken apart and rebuilt from scratch on an adjacent plot of land. This ritual is called Shikinen, and it has been performed 62 times. The same trees, the same tools, the same techniques, generation after generation. Craftsmen who learned their trade from fathers who learned from their fathers, who learned from men whose names are lost to history. When the new shrine is complete, the old one is dismantled. The sacred objects are moved, and the cycle begins again. Think about what this means. Japan decided 13 centuries ago that some things are worth rebuilding forever. Not because they wear out, the wood would last much longer, but because the act of rebuilding is itself sacred. It passes knowledge from one generation to the next. It ensures that no skill is ever lost. This is not architecture. This is time made visible. And then, Tokyo. If Ise Jingu is Japan at its most timeless, Tokyo is Japan at its most relentless. 37 million people. The largest metropolitan area in human history. But here is what the postcards do not show you. Tokyo is not one city. It is hundreds of villages, swallowed, layered, stacked on top of each other, that somehow never quite disappeared. Walk through Shibuya at midnight. The crossing floods with people, 1,000 bodies moving in 4 directions at once, and yet nobody collides. There is an order here, an unspoken choreography that the Japanese call harmony. But turn down the wrong alley, just one, and suddenly The neon is gone. The noise drops. You are standing in front of a shrine the size of a telephone booth, wedged between a noodle shop and a karaoke bar. A 300-year-old stone fox stares back at you. A candle flickers inside. Tokyo has 1,500 Shinto shrines. Some are vast, like Meiji Jingu, surrounded by 100,000 trees, but most are tiny, hidden, unnamed on any tourist map, protected by the people who live next door. This is the contradiction at the heart of Japan. The same country that rebuilt a sacred shrine 62 times also built the world's busiest train station, Shinjuku, which handles 3.6 million passengers every single day. The same hands that carve wooden temple gates also program robots. It would be easy to say Japan is a country of contrasts, ancient and modern, quiet and loud. But that's not quite right. Contrast suggests conflict. Two things pulling in opposite directions. What Japan has is something rarer: integration. The old was never replaced. It was simply folded in. 2 hours north of Tokyo, hidden in a cedar forest where the mist never fully lifts, stands a temple so ornate that it took 15,000 craftsmen 2 years to build. Nikko Toshogu. Built in 1617 to honor Tokugawa Ieyasu, the shogun who unified Japan after centuries of civil war. But the temple is not famous for the man it memorializes. It is famous for what covers every surface. 5,000 individual carvings. Dragons so detailed that you can count their scales. Flowers painted in colors that have not faded in 400 years. And above a stable for sacred horses, 3 monkeys. See no evil. Hear no evil. Speak no evil. Everyone knows the proverb. Almost no one knows it came from here. From a single panel carved on a temple wall in a forest north of Tokyo. But the most extraordinary thing about Nikko is not what was carved. It is what was engineered. The Yomemon Gate, the main entrance, is designed so that the pillars are intentionally carved slightly off-center. Not by mistake, by philosophy. The craftsmen believed that perfection was an insult to the gods. Only the divine can achieve true perfection. So they introduced deliberate imperfection, a column tilted just 1 degree, to show humility. Humility in a gate that took 15,000 people to build, in a country that would spend 13 centuries rebuilding the same shrine again and again. This is Japan. Every answer leads to another question. Here is what Japan teaches us. A civilization can last 14,000 years without kings or armies. Stone and concrete are temporary, but wood, rebuilt every 20 years, can last forever. A city of 37 million can contain a shrine the size of a cupboard. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can build is something the sea will take back. Japan is not a country that makes sense in a single visit or a single film. It is a place where every temple hides a workshop. Every neon street hides a fox statue from the 17th century. Every question asked leads deeper into the forest. But that is precisely why it matters. In a world obsessed with the new, Japan remembers. It rebuilds. It folds the past into the present, not as a museum piece, but as something still alive, still breathing. Maybe it's time you discovered it for yourself.